Welcome to Lesson 4. The part that we're going to build today, we're going to introduce a few new concepts. We're going to look at symmetry and draft. Symmetry is basically when we have two halves of a part that are identical, and we can use some different tools in that to reduce our workload. We're going to, as we extrude our part, we just extrude them to a certain length before. Now we're going to use up to next and mid-plane, and we're going to just extrude things a little differently. All the time and all the things we introduce are going to be ways to reduce our workload that makes drafting these parts easier. As you can see here, we're going to create a ratchet handle, and it's going to contain a lot of the things that we've used already, but things that we use frequently in all the models that we're going to design or that you will design, meaning bosses, cuts, sketch geometry, which we pretty much always use, fillets, and then we're going to introduce draft. And draft is just an angle that we put on a part to assist it in coming out of a mold. If the edges are straight, the part does not want to release from the mold, so we'll put a certain degree of angle on the sides of the part to help it release. We're going to start with the handle, and then we're going to go to the transition part, that round part in the middle, and then last we're going to do the ratchet head. As we can see here, the design intent, we can kind of look at the part, and we've got our longitudinal axis, and so the part is centered along that, but it's also centered along our parting plane, which is, you can see this part is divided in half, and if we were to look closely, the draft, the angle goes kind of towards from the outside to the inside of the part in that direction on the top, and it goes in the same direction or kind of the opposite direction on the bottom. And so that's our parting plane right in the middle. And so this part is symmetrical over the longitudinal axis, and it's also symmetrical, at least the outside of this ratchet, across our parting plane. And so that's going to assist us in how we construct this part. And then last we'll do the internal features of the ratchet. The first part that we're going to start with is going to be the handle, and usually the first sketch or part that we or feature that we start with for our part is called the base feature, and so that's what we're doing on the handle. And if we look, you can see the draft is equal on all sides, and so what it looks like is just a big rectangle. So we're going to start with that. Secondly, we are going to sketch this transition piece or this neck of the ratchet, whatever you want to call it. And again, it's centered, that we can see this cross section that's cross-hatched here. It's this circular piece. And so again, that's centered along the longitudinal axis and the parting line. And the length of it we're going to determine using the existing location of the handle. Last, before we get started, let's look at the last piece of the ratchet, and that's going to be the ratchet head. And we can see here that we're using two arcs that are not equal, and then they're connected by two angled lines, and we're going to make those lines tangent to each arc. And so that means the center of each arc is going to be fixated on that longitudinal line, and that the location of these profiles is going to be on the parting line. And again, the parting line is if we're looking at the side of the ratchet, and that's going to be directly in the center. Here we can get a pretty good view of the draft angle, and it's going to be equal on both sides, and the thickness is also going to be equal on both sides. And then once we get this constructed, then we can go in and we can make some cuts, and we can finish off the interior of the ratchet head. So the things we've gone over is in the manual. It's under lesson 4. And I just want to go over a couple other things just to let you know that the book is really a good point of reference. And here on page 133, I believe it is, yes, 133 under lesson 4, some of this stuff we'll be using in the lessons, but some of it not, and I just want to direct your attention to it because a lot of this can be helpful in some of your assignments that you're doing. So we do have display options. We have wireframe, and these are the symbols that you'll see under the heads-up display that if you click on it, this is what you're going to get. And so there's a drop-down menu, and you'll see wireframe, and then you'll see a little symbol like this. So we have hidden lines visible, hidden lines removed, it looks like that, shaded, we have shaded with edges, shaded, we have a section view. Some of our options as far as display, we have different zooming options, zoom to fit, zoom to area. Again, look at the symbols, look at what it does. We can rotate, we can pan. Panning means just taking the whole image and moving it side to side or up and down. We've got middle mouse button functions. Again, some people like to use these, some don't, but again, here's what it does. Take a look at these and you can see, and maybe there's some of them that you'd like to look. A lot of these are designed, again, just to make your life easier when you're doing the drawing. I don't use all of them. I use some, and it's kind of what you get used to, and that's why we don't cover every single thing in here, because it really is kind of an individualized program. We have other options with the reference triad, and we can shift and we can move that around, and that's going to move the whole part with it. And then we've got some keyboard shortcuts here. And again, some people like the keyboard shortcuts, other people like to click on the menu. I'm a little bit of both. Starting on 139 in this lesson, we're also going to be using trim and extend. This is used extensively when we're sketching. Again, it helps us draw a lot of lines, and then we can go back and we can trim away what we don't want. Again, I'll explain these as we move along in doing our sketch, but you can reference it here as well. We can also extend lines. Again, you can look at these examples here. We can draw something, and then if I need to, I can extend it up to something or past something, and I could come and trim it. The last thing that we'll look at in this lesson as we go through our part is going to be the measuring function. This is used extensively, and it really helps a great deal. We can calculate distances, surface areas, lengths, circles, X, Y, Z locations, all different kinds of things, and it really gives us an overall picture of the part that we're trying to create, and gives us a lot of really good feedback as we're designing the part, and we can, it helps us decide if we want to make decisions on the fly and maybe make changes, or we can give information to others about the part we're creating as we're doing it. Again, this this is on 144, but we're going to be going through it in the lesson, and so we will start the lesson in the next video.